Hello, this is a fully restored Bechstein Model 5 grand piano, that's 2 metres long, 6'7.5" inches, coming to stock this month, and just trying to look at it to see what fine refinements we might still need to do. And it has been restored in every detail. We've done certainly over 10 of these, very similar restoration on each one. So we have got videos of very similar pianos, but they all vary very slightly. So just want to inspect this one to see if there's anything that we could do to further improve it, and also to enjoy the piano really. The restoration, as we've shown many of these before, so it won't be too long showing this, but you can see the detail, beautiful in every detail, and right through to the soundboard being absolutely perfect. It has been shimmed if it needed shimming, and this is a new decal, so it's work they're familiar to do. We like to get the wedge dampers up to this break point, and in fact there's one just beyond. They weren't originally that far up, but it does like slightly better damping. Here's a Steinway, for instance. You can see the wedge dampers are only going up to a few notes past that break point, whereas with the Bechstein they go right up to about here. As had replacement key tops, we more frequently replace the ivories if they're at all slightly blemished, because it's very hard to export. For instance, if we have ivory keys, it's not impossible, but paperwork involved, and if the ivories aren't perfect and the rest of the piano is, then we would replace them. The piano's pristine. Just a quick look at the case. These were put on, I think, for removals, when nowadays we just put covers over the whole piano, but that holds the lid. If you're moving the piano, stops it coming open. As I say, nowadays that's a bit redundant, so they don't put it on pianos anymore. But the whole case is perfect. It's very reflective, obviously, so you can see whatever it's reflecting in this room. I've had a new rest bank fitted. That's the wood that the tuning pins go into, and that means the tuning pins can be as tight as a new piano, so really tight, and that's obviously very important that it stays in tune perfectly. It's just like a new piano, and only sounds better, I believe, and also feels better. The Bechstein touch is so superb. And we're looking at the wedge dampers earlier on, so that we have the front and the back wedge dampers here. Here it's just the back. If we just move that over, you can see the back, and the front is not wedged, but it helps the damping to be crisper, and especially for jazz players, they like that as crisp as possible. But there's a slight variety there. That's an F. I've marked these ones that we need to just refine slightly. There was a G that was, there's the G, and definitely, and that's one side of the damper that's the problem. So if we dampen off the left string, the damper's fine. They obviously settle in over a period of time, but when they're brand new, you do have to spend some time getting the dampers working perfectly. Now we've replaced the tied actions, you can see by these circle pieces of wood that have been inserted. I've plenty of other videos showing tied actions on Bechsteins, because we've done this job many times. Looking at the hammers, shanks and rollers which have been replaced, we can see these are arbel hammers. If you look over there, you can see arbel. As is the case with, as I say, practically everyone that we've done has arbel hammers, and obviously you ask arbel for Bechstein hammers of this age and they know what to supply. So it's, I say, it's a job we've done many times, so we're obviously trying to refine it every single time we do it. But you can see the regulation, they're kicking up beautifully after you release the back check. Now one thing I haven't shown for a while is the fact that when they're brand new hammers, it's difficult to see the markings on them. You just about see the 3 strings where it hits the 3 strings there. But we need to mark it, and I mentioned this before, that you put carbon paper between the hammer and the string, and then if you play the hammer, then it'll mark with the carbon paper, and that's extremely useful for voicing, and especially for voicing the unicorda pedal. Now you can see very clearly where the hammer is hitting the strings, and you can also see if they're centered properly. In this case they're beautifully centered, so that's encouraging. And you can also see whether they might be hitting one string more strongly than another. Sometimes when new hammers are placed on, they don't hit all 3 strings at the same time, and that makes a huge difference to the tone. So both of those seem to have a clean bill of health in both respects there. And we can also now voice for the unicorda. So as the hammer shifts sideways with the unicorda pedal, Ideally there's a different part of the felt that's hitting the string, so it won't hit at the same place, so you need the unaccorder to be positioned accordingly. So as I press my foot on the unaccorder, you can see the hammer moving sideways, and that's almost perfect. We want it to just clip the string on the left hand side, and then a different part of the felt to hit the string, so then we can voice in between the string marks and get a softer sound. So now I've marked the strings, been able to voice in between where the hammer hits the string. You have to be very careful not to stray, and if you do stray you can always just take the surface off and make it brighter again. But the idea is to make it mellower in between, so when the unaccorder pedal moves sideways, the hammer hits a different part of the felt hits the string, the part in between here. If you haven't done this before, I would advise you going really carefully. Don't go more than about 1 millimeter, 1.5 millimeters into the hammer. You don't want to damage it by going too far in. That's irreversible if you damage it, so it's really important that it takes time and experience obviously to get used to the difference, and it doesn't make a huge difference when they're brand new hammers. You need it to get played in a bit so that the part that hits the string is stronger, and then in between less strong. So that's the principle of unaccorder voicing. Before listening to the piano, there's a summary of the worksheet and some of the dimensions, like the legroom for instance. That's normal for a grand, and pedals are normal really. You could raise them up a little if you wanted a bit more legroom. It's fine for me, and there's the extra work that still needs to be done, so improving a couple of dampers. The corners of the keys are a bit sharp, I didn't mention that. Down here, if you look, there's not many of them, but as you rub your finger across along there, this does happen sometimes with recovered keys, and new ones actually. Sometimes find on new pianos it's just a bit sharp when you're playing the octaves. I'd like to try and get that improved a little bit. And the weighting, well, that's excellent actually. The down weight is excellent, and the up weight is low, and that makes the touch feel so smooth and responsive. We have done some voicing already. Here's a comparison with some other grand pianos in stock. This is a Yamaha S6. That's dated 2005, so a very modern piano. This is a 1902 Steinway Model O, that's 5'10½". So that's a Bechstein Model 5 1899, and it's just been fully restored, and just sort of seen what needs to be refined on it really. I've mentioned many times before, I believe the touch on the Bechstein is second to none, and I just enjoy it so much for that reason. Has a very distinctive tone, Bechstein, as well. Very clear. Resonant wherever you play it. Beautiful solid bass sound. Sings beautifully round here. This is where I voice some of the hammers for the unrecorder. You can't tell a huge difference, and as it beds in it'll be more different, but it's obviously for quiet playing that it's important. You may detect a small difference. Obviously I've got to make sure I'm playing it at the same volume both times, so it's very subtle and probably not picked up on the video. Now I believe it's every bit as good as a new piano, and tone wise I prefer it, and action wise I prefer it. Huge volume range, huge dynamic range, sorry. I haven't mentioned everything about this piano on this video because we have several videos similar, but I just wanted to go through this one. It's a long time since I've made a video of one, just to show some of the reasons why I appreciate it so much. If you're interested in the piano, then please do write to us, info@robertspianos.com. Talk to us about it, let us know where you live, and we'll see how we can serve you the best. Thank you very much for listening.